Hey, Diana, you should take some time off.
Mark, that's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
Ladies and gentlemen, jurists and just curious, welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast. Here you'll learn about marketing, management, and life skills for lawyers that probably won't get you disbarred. Hosted by Marc Whitehead, a seasoned lawyer who remembers when fax machines were cutting edge, and Diana Berry, attorney, COO, and the brains behind the scenes. Together, they are the legal world's most dynamic duo since statutes met regulations. So if you're looking to build a practice, not a prison, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Successful Barrister, where legal legends are made.
And welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast, a podcast for lawyers and law firm leaders about marketing, management, and life skills that probably won't get you disbarred. I'm your host, Marc Whitehead, alongside my number one, my COO, my right hand, Diana Berry. Hey, Diana, what's going on?
Well, it's actually probably the smartest thing you've ever said, Mark, but it's also the dumbest thing you've ever said. So,
Why?
Clearly I need time off, but also,
You're just freaking out. It's the end of the year.
No, it's not. It doesn't have anything to do with being the end of the year. It's just
You're just freaking out.
I'm not freaking out.
Oh, yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I think you should be more concerned that you're not freaking out. So the firm, as listeners, as you guys know, we just started arguing and didn't even tell anybody what we were arguing about. The firm has grown exponentially this year, had its best revenue year, profit year. Just everybody is working on all cylinders, which all sounds like a great thing, right?
Yeah, everybody out there in podcast land are going, wah, wah, wah.
Exactly. Nobody wants to hear about that.
Nobody cares.
But there is the flip side of growth. And I think that your leadership team, as well as I'd say your team leads, I would include them in that, bear the brunt of it at this point of the cycle. So today, Mark, we are talking a little bit about that, but partially in terms of the Clio Trends Report. Is that right?
Right. So the 2025 Clio Legal Trends Report came out about this. We're a little bit behind. This is about 6 weeks ago. It came out, if I'm remembering correctly, but it came out. And it kind of had two themes to it. It kind of had the theme of law firm burnout, and it kind of had the theme of technology and AI. Quite frankly, we've talked a lot about technology and AI lately. So I don't want to beat a dead horse. I was kind of wanting to focus today on what Clio said about law firm burnout. And I'm looking straight at you, Diana, who's freaking out, who really needs to take some time off and who refuses to take some time off because, because you're so damn important.
I'm really not, but then I really am. So we're talking out of both sides of our mouths today.
Totally.
But also,
I would also warn everybody that in our prior meeting, Diana and I both threatened to throw things at each other. So this may get a little spicy today because we're already a little heated, but
I think Mark likes to do these before the podcast.
I really do. I'm just trying to irritate
podcasting. You. Ironically, Mark, since you are just
Diana,
completely
I'm looking for
annihilating me on today's podcast. I have actually used all of my, I don't know how much PTO you think you give me.
I just assume you take whatever you want.
I have actually, probably for the first time in my career here, taken all of my PTO and then some. But the nature of my position, and I was explaining this to our new marketing director last week when I was at a theme park with my family.
Her name is Jennifer. You can say your name.
Well, I didn't know if she wanted her name disclosed for all of our listeners.
Okay, we'll go JC. I call her JC. So I'm starting to refer to her as JC just because, number one, it's easier to type.
Okay. All right. Well, so as I reminded one of our newest hires last week, that is taking complete time off is just not the nature of my position. And there are a lot of people, I think, that feel this way in many law firms. Actually, I was supposed to take Wednesday before Thanksgiving off. We were recording this the week after Thanksgiving, and I had a standing meeting with one of our vendors. And they're like, well, way to chime in, Diana, on your day off. And I was like, hey, guys, I was already online, so I went ahead and logged on today. They're like, yep. And so at the end of the meeting, they're like, okay, Diana, you're going to do this. And hey, if you get it to me, today, I won't work on it today, but I will probably work on it Friday. I'm like, oh gosh, y'all don't get Friday after Thanksgiving off. And they're like, oh yeah, we do, but it's my admin day. I get no meetings involved. I get to get so much done. So I feel like a lot of law firms,
Sick.
Particularly,
I didn't do anything the day after Thanksgiving. I just sat and mourned a particular football game that didn't go my way.
But you had a great Friday for the most of the day. But I think it particularly, since we're talking about the Clio Legal Trends Report today, many people in the legal SaaS space, the software as a solution space, are feeling that today because of AI. So I think it was really one theme, just because I'm going to go ahead and disagree with Marc everywhere I can today. I think that it was one theme in the Clio Trends Report, which is how AI can alleviate burnout within your team. So it was really kind of, I think, a 5-part report, extensive, probably 100+ pages. But we're really only talking about part 2, which is reducing the cognitive load of your team. And how AI and automation can do that. So, Marc, when I say cognitive load, what do you think of?
Okay, cognitive meaning my function of my brain, and meaning my brain load, which I go back to what is my bandwidth. That's how I like to refer to my brain. Is it has a certain amount of bandwidth, and every time you come in, not you personally, but every time somebody comes in and asks a dumb question, you have stolen some of my bandwidth.
Exactly. And so for our team, we're talking today a little bit about not necessarily the AI tools our firm uses, because obviously, as Marc mentioned, we have kind of talked that one to death. But we are talking about how AI and automation can help reduce your team's cognitive load. So, for example, one of the things from the Clio Trends Report is basically you're trying to reduce neurological strain, is the way they put that. So very fancy, right, Marc?
Bandwidth. Let's call it bandwidth.
Bandwidth. We're going to use that during our podcast today, listeners, during their legal tasks. So, for example, with better systems, then I think that what Clio was saying was that their report found that it can reduce the emotional stress of intake by 16%.
So I want to go back and redefine what I think is the important theme of this 100-page behemoth that we slogged through. It's the fact that we have a people problem in the legal industry, is that the human industry is under a tremendous amount of strain. And so the way they described it, the biggest crisis in the law right now isn't the technology or the emerging technology, it's exhaustion. People are tired, especially this time of year. We're all pushing hard to get to the end of the year, and we're tired. I remember our very first podcast episode, we talked about, I think a statistic came up that a surprising number, like half of all lawyers regretted going to law school, regretted the decision they made of, putting 3 years plus into this effort of becoming a lawyer. Which,
plus 6 figures in debt.
Which is shocking, although, quite frankly, it wasn't surprising. I mean, I look back at my law firm classes, just my section, Section B, the best section in the University of Houston, by the way, class of 92. I was, of 85 of us, I would bet you at least there's probably only about 30, 35 that are still actively practicing law.
I'm not. I wouldn't fall in that 30 or 35. I am not actively I don't carry a docket at this firm.
Technically, I don't either. So, although I still say I practice law, but so the Clio Legal Trends Report quotes a more recent statistic, this year's statistic, that 42% of all lawyers and legal staff report feeling burned out. Now, I don't know how they mixed lawyers and legal staff together in this statistic. But I do think it makes the point that it isn't all about just the lawyers feeling burned out. It's your staff too. It bleeds down throughout the firm. And I can think of us. I can think of the workloads that our staff have, and sometimes I'm amazed that the amount of clients that each one is dealing with at any particular moment. So I think that's what we're trying to make the point. That was the point I really wanted to take out of the Clio Legal Trends Report. But then what's the hope? The hope is that that maybe we can implement some technology solutions, maybe AI solutions, maybe other types of technology solutions out there that can maybe relieve that stress in the future. Maybe we can reimagine the way law firms work, and we can redesign the way our law firms work. And I'm saying we collectively as the legal profession. I think we do a fairly good job of being on the cutting edge of technology. But we as a profession can redesign workflows to try to alleviate the stress, not only for us, but for our staff.
And I think that that's really the crux of the issue, Mark, is that basically if by alleviating that stress, then you get a more engaged team, less turnover, better customer service. And so I think maybe the way that we would put it is that basically now your team's mental health is really what you're protecting. It is a key business issue or something to deal with. And,
health and happiness in the workplace is one of our 6 core firm values, and it is something that we pay close attention to. Anyway, so when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the science of cognitive load and what we can do about it.
This podcast is sponsored by Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability benefits law firm. Marc Whitehead runs a firm of over 60 dedicated people whose mission is to make a difference in the lives of our injured and disabled clients. Marc represents disabled claimants in Social Security disability, private disability insurance, and veterans disability claims in all 50 states. Marc Whitehead is double board certified in both Social Security disability law and personal injury trial law. Marc has litigated disability cases in over 40 states and counting and can help your clients too. Stop throwing your phone calls away. Call Marc Whitehead at 701-VIP-LEAD. That's 701-VIP-LEAD. Or visit our website at disabilitydenials.com. Referral fees are paid in all jurisdictions where it is permitted. Refer us your disability cases today and know that your clients will be in good hands.
All right, and we're back. All right, Diana, cognitive load, what we have described earlier as bandwidth. So cognitive load, the silent killer of performance. In other words, a lack of bandwidth or using your bandwidth unproductively. So I will just admit yesterday that I was in the middle, I had workflow going. I was creating some brilliant stuff. Me and Claude was cooking along, and somebody walked in and said, "Hey, Mark, you got a minute?" Which is a lie, because what they're really saying is, "Mark, do you have 15 minutes?" And they jumped in, and then we got into this circular sort of reasoning argument that I was trying to get out of because I was trying to get back to my flow, and this person sucked all my energy out. She or he, I'm not going to identify who this person was.
Now I'm just like, I'm going to look at his calendar after this.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not
It wasn't on my calendar. It wasn't on my calendar.
Right,
I'm just saying, I just burst right in and just totally blew up my flow. And that's, quite frankly, my fault. I let it happen. I should have said, "Can you come back in 30 minutes or whenever, or let me come find you when I'm ready to talk." I know I violated one of my key principles there. But anyway, so cognitive, that just is an example of a cognitive load, or somebody sucking your bandwidth.
I think some of the things that I think about in reviewing the trends report is the constant task switching. I've noticed that I've spent some time with our Social Security Disability Department in this last quarter of the year because it has outgrown it had outgrown its existing structure, processes, all of the things. And so we went in and revamped a lot of things, KPIs. And what we found was the constant task switching. What they were coming in and doing is, okay, I'm going to read all my email, then read all my case status messages, check my voicemail, which is probably just translated into my email. Then I'm going to check my text messages also come to my email. I'm going to check my task list, and then I'm going to figure out maybe I'm just going to attack it all and then hopefully get through it all at the end of the day. So with the constant task switching, one of the things that we try to advocate is really time blocking. And it's an old tool. Marc, you've talked about it. Actually, you probably introduced that concept to me when I first came here. So just for our listeners, can you kind of...
Hey, me. I actually made you smarter, didn't I?
It has really helped me. I can tell you I don't do it anymore. My day doesn't work that way, but I was really good at it. And I teach it to all of our team.
Yeah, time blocking is very simple. You just take your calendar and block out, look at your priority tasks and block out time and label that time that you've blocked out to do this task. If my task is I need to draft this motion for summary judgment, I'm going to block out 3 hours of my time on a Tuesday afternoon and turn my phone off, and I have scheduled that time. I have blocked that time to do this particular task. And the whole ideal is to start, let's say, the week, if you're talking about the week, or you can do it in the morning if you're talking about your day. What are your 3 most important things that you need to get done, and block the time out on your calendar, and don't let people violate that time block like I did yesterday.
And so one of the things that I found interesting about the Clio Trends report, and I'm just going to quote it here, is that the average worker spends 4 hours per week reorienting between applications, amounting to 5 weeks or 9% of annual work time, just switching between applications.
Multitasking is a lie.
Well, and I think that, with the
It's
volume,
been proven.
The volume of the business and or just the influx and the need to respond. I mean, I think now we live in such an urgent world, 24-hour news cycle and everything, all of the push notifications that come to our phone, that it's just almost innate to try to do that. But another statistic that I found interesting from the report was that it takes 9.5 minutes to reorient after switching between different work contexts.
Yep.
And so one
No
of
doubt.
the things is that it's not that we're asking our team to do difficult things, but basically the repetition and the fragmentation of menial tasks contributes to an unnecessary expense on the cognitive load per Clio.
So it's funny. So I don't do a whole lot of staff interviews anymore, but back when I used to do it, everybody would say the same thing. I'm good at multitasking. And I would look them square in the eye, and if I wanted to be really spicy, and sometimes I did, just to shake it up, I would say, that is a lie. Nobody can multitask.
You told me that.
You can only serial task. In other words, you can do one task at a time, and then you can switch to another task, and then you switch to another task. But you're not multitasking, you're serial tasking, and every time you switch, you're losing time, you're losing focus, you're basically, again, eating up your bandwidth.
I'm going to
How did I say it
counter-
to you? I'm curious.
Literally, you said, no, you're not. In the middle of an interview. First time I've ever met you in person. No, you're not. And I'm like, okay. But
how did you react to that? See, the reason I do that, the reason I call you on it is I want to see how you react to it. That's part of the interview process. I want to see how you react to some stress or strain that doesn't go exactly the way you thought it was going to go.
Well, I'm just going to say this is potentially another podcast, but I'm going to go ahead and say that any good COO of a growth-oriented firm must be good at multitasking. The other thing that I wanted to talk about,
come through in the audio?
the only other thing that I want to talk about with cognitive load is the searching for information in different systems, because I feel this so acutely after working with Social Security. We have, case status. We have Banjaxed for our texting. They get faxes. Because of course the government still faxes things and all the things. We have the Assure portal. We have all these different ways that they can get information. And the word integration, at least with SaaS companies, software as a solution companies, or...
I'm glad you keep telling me that, because I keep forgetting what SaaS means. It's like, are you a sassy person? But
I am both. Well, I am both sassy as well as we're talking about SaaS, just software as a solution, particularly as it relates to AI. We give them all of these tools, and then it just almost creates that fragmentation again that we're talking about. So now they have all these different streams where they can gather information, where they're supposed to pull information. And so integration, again, we obviously, we've mentioned before, we're Litify clients. And so, everybody's like, oh, I have a Litify integration. And I almost breeze past that now. But it is an important component to think about. So if your tools do not integrate with each other, you're probably having your team's probably experiencing a significant cognitive load.
Right. So you mentioned it a minute ago. I want to circle back on it. So when you have cognitive load extremes on your staff, which causes mental fatigue on their part, and they're frazzled, it really causes the customer service experience to suffer. Because remember, that's what we are. We are a service industry. Customer service is what it's all about. And the customer service starts to suffer, and your clients will start to notice it. They'll notice people on the phone, your staff on the phone with them, or even us as the attorneys, being a little short with them, or a little bit snippy, or trying to get off the phone, or or maybe we're slow to respond, or our communication just isn't up to snuff the way it should be. And that's because we're under stress. I've done that before. I mean, I have snapped at clients before. Now, not lately, but I can tell you there have been times in my career that I was under stress, and I wouldn't say I flipped out on a client, but I snapped at a client. I might have been short with a client, and that's just, you can't do that. That's not good customer service, ever.
And absolutely. And I think that the way that I would put it in my terms would be just lack of empathy or compassion. And we hire I think that every single team member, I think I would probably say that I have the least empathy of our entire team. And it's not necessary. I'm not bragging about that, obviously, but that we just are really good at finding people that have such empathy for our clients and are very compassionate. When I start to see, I can always just see it though, whenever a team member starts to get a little more touchy with the clients on the phone, or even I've had team members just before when we had phones, slam phones down, like on the, that was so very satisfying. Now you can only push the button on the computer. I was like, hey, we need to talk to that team member because they're burnt out. Something's going on. And it's not that they're not an empathetic person or a compassionate person. They are just at their limits.
Well, the other way it manifests itself in customer service is, as opposed to being snippy on the phone, they don't call the client back. They just put it off or don't do it. They start dropping the ball, and clients notice that.
Absolutely. And I think that's just obvious. That's human nature 101, right? I've already had a long day. Am I going to call this client that's going to use your words, suck the rest of my energy out of my day, and have a very difficult conversation? Probably not. So I'm going to put it off to the next day. So
as much as I didn't want this podcast to be about AI, now we're going to turn to AI a little bit.
Which I think that's, you can't not talk about AI.
I think what Clio basically started with the whole circular point that they were driving is that one of the solutions to the cognitive load problem that we've been talking about here is that a little AI in the right places helps humans be better humans. Automation can remove mind-numbing work, which is a huge part of the cognitive load. The AI summaries that we get on our meetings, we record most of our meetings on AI. It can reduce the mental load of having to go back and read extensive notes or try to remember what was said in a meeting, because it's all there documented and it gives you a nice little summary of it. I love it how when we have a meeting that's recorded by AI, the very first thing it does is it gives you a list of the to-dos that we all agreed to in the meeting. Just so it's all right there. Boom, 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 boom. So that can remove some of the emotional strain, some of the the cognitive fatigue around, being in an hour and a half level 10 meeting, to be able to look at a quick summary. Oh, yeah, that's right. What we talked about. So what we talked about. The caution would be that none of it replaces humans. Okay, still got to have the human. We are humans.
Yeah, and so I keep doing this just because I'm going to try to make it catch on, Mark. But I think really the next decade is going to be that whole return to authenticity, TM, where we demand real human interaction. And so I think that what we've been saying this whole podcast basically is that utilizing AI allows your team to improve their work performance by improving their cognitive performance, their cognitive availability to handle some of those more strategic, like problem solving type issues. Okay, my client's been at this, the field office for 11 months. What's going on? Who do I talk to? How can I leverage my experience with Social Security to be able to get forward progress on this client's case? But also, like, I think, which of course leads to a better client outcome, hopefully for our team members.
So one of the things, just slightly switching gears here, that the Clio Legal Trends report talked about was client attitudes and how clients are changing. And clients are changing fast. They live in the Domino's pizza tracker world. They live in the world of Amazon same-day delivery. And we have to, as an industry, we've got to adapt to that. Clients are expecting speed. They're expecting transparency. They mention now that online reviews matter more than referrals. I thought that was rather shocking. I'm not sure where they get that statistic from, but I'm sure somebody did a survey of something. But that's a big deal. If your online reviews matter more than referrals, that sort of really changes the way, you have to think about marketing yourself.
Absolutely. And so I shared this actually with our leadership team the other day. I had to, unfortunately, buy a whole new air conditioning unit for my house. And I called, or I spoke with
Better
someone.
to do it in the winter and the summer.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, it was much better. But also, I spoke to an AI chatbot I don't know how I did it, but I never spoke to a human before my appointment was scheduled. And I had to do that also I needed to get a washing machine part repaired. And I had the same, I called around and spoke to more AI chatbots than I spoke to actual humans. And I will say that I went with the vendor that actually had a human interact, that actually picked up the phone and talked to me. I didn't want to deal with an AI chatbot because I wanted to actually know who I was dealing with. Also, just because I think that, guys, we are obviously a law firm and we are in the legal space, but we're in the customer service space. So my car is undergoing repairs currently, and it's been such an interesting experience on the customer side of it. I get these text messages, these automated text messages. My car entered paint today. Did you know my car entered paint today? I got an estimated completion date. She told me that she would contact me every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and so far she has. These things matter. And so when you alleviate or help your team do these things by reducing their cognitive load, I think these are the things that our clients are coming to expect because they see it in other service businesses.
Right. The domino pizza tracker effect. Like we've said before in this podcast, so we use case status as a software. Is that a SaaS? Is case status what you would call a SaaS? Okay.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, good. So case status is how our Domino's pizza tracker, it's how our clients can keep up with the progress on their case and see when it shifts from one level to another. I think that should be our goal this year, is to reevaluate how effectively we're using case status. See, I'm putting a rock right on your plate, right in the middle of a podcast, and you can't say anything about it because it's being recorded.
I disagree. I can absolutely disagree with you in the middle of recording, but also I think it's great. I think that also another topic for our future podcast, how effectively are you using your tech stack?
Exactly.
One of the other things, Mark, that we talked, or that the Clio Trends report talked about was, and we've touched on this in a prior podcast, but how AI is changing pricing models for law firms.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I'm not sure that I really understood that part. So I understand how we talked about this before. So if you're an hourly lawyer, what you used to could bill 2, 3, 4 hours to do something, now using AI, you can do that same task. Say, for example, a medical record summary or a depot summary or something like that. You can do that in 1/10 of the time. Well, that affects your ability to bill what you used to be able to bill. So I think it can negatively affect an hourly firm that's not able to adapt, which is why the lawyers I coach that do hourly work, I keep coaching them. You need to switch over to a flat fee model. You need to switch over to a value-based model, not an hourly model. For us on the contingency side, I think it's a boom for us because everything that we can do quicker, faster, cheaper is good for us in the contingency fee world. So I think it depends on which side of the economic model you're on. I looked at it sort of from the marketing side. This is a scary thing. One of the stats that they threw out is that younger people, and I don't know how they define younger, but younger people tend to use AI to actually find attorneys and to evaluate attorneys. That's scary as hell because where does AI get their information from? We can control our website. We can control our advertising message. I can't control what AI thinks about me. I don't really, maybe we can.
I was just saying, yes, you can.
Well,
I
know.
You can.
I'm saying we can try, but we can't guarantee it.
Which is why, I had this, I actually told, this was my leadership team lecture the other day. They let me get on my sandbox. So they gave me so much grace that day. They let me get on my sandbox. And so I have an oil and gas background for probably about 7 years. And what I told them was, what I lectured to them was that the one thing that I knew, regardless of whether I liked the price of WTI, or what WTI, the West Texas Index, the price of crude, however you want to call it, I knew it would change tomorrow. I may not like the way it changed because it might go down. I may not like the number, but it would absolutely change tomorrow. And because I spent a lot of my time in the services side of oil and gas, it meant that I think it all trickled downhill, right? So if WTI or the price of crude was going down, then it would also lessen the demand for the company that I worked for. Now, as a service business and the utilization of AI, you actually can't hide your negative reviews anymore. So when I was looking for a service provider, any of the three that I have recently chosen in the last couple of weeks, unfortunately, and now AI will tell me most positive reviews say this about this vendor. Most negative reviews say this about this vendor. So AI is absolutely, all it's doing is just summarizing. How many years have you been in business, Mark? How many years of Google reviews do you have?
Too many.
Too many years of Google reviews. And so now it's summarizing all that years of experience. So that's why it is so very important that your customer service is on point and you're getting all those 5-star reviews because, the strategy used to be, let's just not bury, but kind of bury the 1-star negative reviews with a lot of 5-star positive reviews. But now AI is going in there and still kind of bringing that old 1-star review from earlier this year back to light and saying, they just say this about this particular service provider.
Well, anyway, scary as hell. I don't like it. Fortunately, our demographic that we shoot for is mostly older as a disability law firm. But if you're a PI law firm, the younger demographic is your demographic. That's the people you're shooting for. So if you're a PI lawyer, you better figure out ways to get AI to like you.
Well, also for your elder law platform, our elder law practice area, I wouldn't say that we're still struggling to figure out who the decision makers are, but in talking with some of our ADA cousins, you talk to children of the actual.
It's usually the children, the adult children that are making the decisions for the older parents.
Driving the engine on trying to hey, we need to get all this stuff papered up, and your younger children are probably using AI and to make some of those decisions. So it's not just the PI world. I think it is appropriate for a lot of practice areas.
Okay.
So when we come back, Mark?
When we come back, we are going to talk about our 5 action items to take away from the AI Legal Trends Report.
This is Marc Whitehead, lawyer, entrepreneur, and business coach. Thanks for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast. If we've stirred your juices, hit me up with an email at mark@markwhitehead.com. Remember, Mark is spelled with a C. And get on the Successful Barrister newsletter mailing list. Even better, let's set up a call. I'd love to talk to you about working together, talk shop, or just shooting the breeze.
All right, Diana, we're back. So let's talk about, first of all, I goofed the name right on the outro. It is the Clio Legal Trends Report. I said it was the AI Legal Trends Report. Sorry, been arguing with Diana too much today. My bandwidth is shrinking by the moment.
It is too early in the day for bandwidth.
We haven't even made lunch yet. So,
as my stomach is currently reminding me.
I know.
So we have 5 action steps for you guys, for you listeners going forward. And apparently Mark is so mad at me that now I have 3 of the 5. So my first one is to identify a workflow that causes the most stress and simplify it. Again,
I didn't hear what you said. Workflow.
Workflow.
Okay.
A workflow. Because I mean, you guys, we're just, again, how do you implement what we've talked about today, reducing cognitive load? It is very amorphous. And so I think reduce or identify one workflow that causes most stress and then figure out how to simplify it. And I did that in preparing for this podcast.
How so?
I am so excited. It's still in my brain, so I'm not ready to talk to you about it. But Mark, if I can do what I know there's just, the world's too big. But if I can do what I think that I want to do, it's going to change our world.
You can't come on the air and tease us like this without giving us something. This is all
Mark,
right. So
what is our second takeaway?
I can't believe she's doing that to you listeners. You should email her, Diana at markwhitehead.com. Mark spelled with a C. Just email her your dissatisfaction.
And tell me how awesome that is, since Mark is so mean to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is number 2, my action step going forward, and this is my baby. Review your intake process. I love my intake department. That's my baby going forward. Make sure you remove any friction that's overwhelming your staff or overwhelming your clients. So we have a sales process, and we've been working on revamping that lately. So once my intake team, what are the intake specialists, they're interviewing a potential client, as soon as that decision clicks on in their head that this is a case that meets our criteria, is qualified, that they need to sign that client up right now over the phone. None of this, let's think about it. None of this, let's send me the contract in the mail or send it to me, let me get back to you. Let's just do it right now. So we've worked on simplifying the process. We can now text the contract or email the contract straight to their smartphone. They can sign it with their finger. We've simplified our contract down to one page to make it very simple and easy to understand and very plain language. We just and we put the contract right at the front, so it's the easiest thing to explain. We put the order in such a way that it's designed to relieve the stress off of the staff person who's trying to explain it, and to relieve the stress of the client who's trying to understand what we're trying to do and trying to make a decision about whether or not they should hire this law firm. It's the easy button. We're making the intake process as easy as we possibly can to take the strain off of both the client and the intake specialist.
Well, especially because right now they're probably setting a task to follow up with that client later on. So it's just one more task that they're going to have to complete later on.
Just take care of it now.
Exactly. And
Don't let them off the phone.
My third takeaway, Mark, is to evaluate your communication protocols. So nearly every law firm that I talk to has a standard by which their team has to reach out to the client. So, for example, we have a stoplight, literally like it's a stoplight. And so green means that you're in good communication per our standards. Yellow is, hey, you need to probably reach out to this client. And then your red on that stoplight is you've exceeded our KPI for when you should be reaching out to your client. And we track that. It's on every scorecard, and it's on part of their bonus metrics. And the takeaway that I would say is that you might need to evaluate whether or not your current communication standards, whether your KPI for your green, yellows, and reds, or whatever you use in your law firm, still work in this high touch, very fast service.
Amazon delivers on the same day. Domino, you're not being evaluated by the performance of other law firms, because your clients don't know what other law firms do, but they know what Amazon does. They know what Domino's does. They know what all of these, today's firms out there do that follow those now models. So that's who you're being compared against. You're not getting compared against other law firms.
Yeah, and one of the things that, we use Case Status, which is a client portal. It's also an app, and some of the metrics that they provide us shows the response time by all of our staff members. We currently, maybe this is going to be one of those things that Mark makes as a rock for me when we evaluate whether we're utilizing case status to its fullest capabilities. But we currently don't do anything with that information because, but for many reasons. But I think it is one of those things that, as a takeaway for our law firm, that we will be evaluating.
So my next, number 4, is to evaluate whether your pricing model increases or reduces your client's anxiety. Now, I have a very clear bias and bent on this. I absolutely hate the billable hour. I think it is the bane of lawyers' existence. I think it's a poor way to value your services, and quite frankly, it increases the stress load of your client. My lawyer bills me by the hour. And so I think about it long and hard before I call them, because I know it's going to hit that 0.6 or 0.12 or whatever it is, whatever hour methodology he's billing just to make that phone call. It stresses me out, and I know the system. Imagine what it's doing to your client. I think clients love flat fees. I think clients love contingency fees. Some hybrid model that might make sense or something like that. I think you should evaluate your pricing model to make it easy for the client to understand, make it predictable for the client, and to lower their stress level. So that would be my take on it.
Yep, and lessen. I mean, I don't think you'd call that anxiety, but lessen that whole decision. You're a sophisticated legal purchaser,
And it causes me anxiety.
It does.
I don't call my own lawyer
And well, how many? Yeah, what is the?
because I'm a cheap bastard. But
what are the mental gymnastics it took for you to send that email? And it's probably a lot more for our clients who are not as familiar with the legal space.
right.
So our fifth and final takeaway, listeners, today is to introduce one AI-assisted tool that will help your team reduce their cognitive load. And I would also add just automation. I think that in this AI world, automations kind of just get left behind because it's old news. But I think that if you look for opportunities to automate some of your work, some of the redundant tasks, repetitive things that you do. So, for example, one of the things that we standardized a long time ago was after the onboarding call task is marked complete, then a standard email goes out to the client. Because one, it's your next steps. 2, it's a summary of all the things that we discussed, the timeline of how long it's going to take. Please look for your SSA application summary. So we need to sign it. You need to get it back to us. But we standardized our communication to them. But also now I did not have my team remembering, oh, I completed my onboarding call. I'm going to send him whatever action items from this onboarding call. Oh, and then I need to send this follow-up email. It just happens now automatically without them even having to think about it. So not just AI tools, but look for automation opportunities.
Right. All right. I was looking at this quote. If your firm doubled its revenue, but also doubled burnout, would that be a success or would that be failure? It depends on who's getting paid.
I knew it. I was like, Mark, don't be evil. You're so evil. I think that the takeaway from for me, and I love seeing it because as much as I like to TM, I return to authenticity quote for the next decade. I love how we are now talking about AI companies or like SaaS companies are talking about the importance of our humanity in this increasingly tech world. We've said it before, but I think that your ultimate competitive advantage is your team because humans are going to demand more human interaction. And the Clio 10's report, it's dense and over 100 pages. Don't recommend you read it all. But I think it brings up some really good points about how you don't just consider your tech stack when you're making your 2026 business plans. Consider how you can properly motivate your team and help your team with their mental health and reduce their cognitive load.
So I think really the point, the way I look at it, is to increase our humanity. We need to increase our humans' time, the time that they have available to be human. So if we can improve our tech stack in such a way that it frees them of menial tasks, they can spend more time actually on the phone being humans to our human clients. That's the way I look at it. That's what I would rather have them do. I'd rather have them being the human face of the firm rather than being the taskmaster. With that, I'm getting the high sign that we are out of time. So with that, I would say, I don't know, what's your favorite AI tool?
No, don't put me on the spot that way.
Oh, come on.
I'm not gonna answer just because you're trying to put me on the spot.
I'm gonna say my favorite AI tool is to talk to Claude.
I knew you were supposed to say Claude.
I know. Claude. All right, whatever. We digress. I want to thank everybody for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast, where legal legends are made. I'm Mark.
And I'm Diana.
And together we're the dynamic duo of law. So if you've enjoyed today's podcast, rate and review us wherever you get your podcast and share it. Hit that forward button to any of your overworked lawyers out there who may need a lift. So for more episodes and resources, visit us at successfulbarrister.com or hit me up at marc@marcwhitehead.com. Remember, Marc is spelled with a C. And don't forget our sponsor, Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability law firm at www.disabilitydenials.com. So until next time, let's create a practice, not a prison. See ya.
Bye.